Welcome back to the video series on Minecraft moddings for CIS 452. Where we left off in the last video was we had an item in the game, but no texture or model information was present. This is actually pretty quick to resolve here. We did it in class, but just to bring us up to speed, what we need to do is we need to now create some assets. This is very asset driven. The actual act of registering a model will kick off the whole thing. And I think if we looked at the, I have a previous run down here, and we see some exceptions here. Exception loading model again. Okay, so those are the things that are keeping the model information and the textures from showing up. So we're going to fix that. This is all data driven. By naming an item with an unlocalized name, such as cheese, it's going to look for a cheese.json in the items folder, and that will in turn point it to a texture and tell it to go and build the model from that texture. So that was the step that we went through last. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to create some resources here. And if we look over here in our project Explorer, we see source main resources. This package was created for us when we ran the setup and did the setup of the Eclipse workspace. So it created this empty thing here. We're going to create a number of packages in here for this. Note that I do have hierarchical view turned on, so you'll see it broke up as long as there is more than one option at the hierarchy level. We see things like edu Bradley J store, and this is all compressed because there's no other options there. It's a straight linear chain. It's only when we get down to this point that we have a init, items, proxy, and util. So we'll see the same thing here. So initially it's going to look like it's a flat view, even though it really is hierarchical. It's only when we add in more than one package that we'll start to see it. So I want to add in some model information. So that means we're going to need to create a package underneath resources, and we'll start off with assets, which will be kind of the generic thing for all of our assets, and then we'll put in the mod ID. Now the mod ID, as we found out, needs to be the same thing as this reference. Let me just cancel this just briefly here. We'll come back to it. When we look under reference, the mod ID here was this string. I think I used a different string in class. That's okay. I think I called it my mod there. It doesn't matter what you name the mod, just as long as we do it this way. I also think that this is probably a bad idea to use underscore. I wasn't sure about that when I made the first video, and I think we learned in class that that is probably a bad thing to do. So I'm just going to remove the underscore right here. No great harm done, because the mod ID is used mainly to point us to the assets in the resources folder. So once we run it again, it will be fine. So I'll make it as CIS 452 mod 1. So given that, I can create a package. And this will be assets, again, as we discussed. The mod ID, CIS 452 mod 1. And now we'll be branching out a little bit here. I want to have a models, and underneath models, that's plural models. The presence or the absence of the S's are going to be very critical in these package names. So they're not going to be. I don't know, it's an easy pattern to remember. So just please be very careful about that right now. Make sure there is an S on models. Now I'm going to put item, no S on that, singular. Okay, that's the package we're going to create. And you see a package created there, a flat hierarchy. At the same time, I'm going to click on resources here and create another package here. Let's create one that's going to be assets.cis 452 mod 1. That's what I'm using here. And then I'm going to want a lang for language localization. So you see now it's split the hierarchy at this point. We have lang and models. I think that's enough for right now. We're going to add in and models.item. We'll add in more stuff later on. For the present, right now, models sub item, I'm going to want to create a JSON file underneath item. So I'll just say new, and then I'll go to other, And now if you've installed the JSON plugin like we did earlier in class, you should be able to see JSON file. If you do not see JSON file under other, there should be JSON. I keep breaking that thing up. Then you need to go and install the plugin for JSON editing. And I'll just cancel this briefly and just remind you, under the Eclipse Marketplace, it's there. I should be able to say installed, and I'll see the JSON editor plugin 1.1.2. Okay, that's what I installed earlier. So go look at the last video on that. Should take you up to this point. All right, so assuming I've done that, go back to other. It happens to have already selected this, but if it hadn't, I will see this list of stuff here, maybe generals highlighted. Come down here, highlight JSON, and then say JSON file. The JSON file that I'm going to create is going to be named cheese.json, and notice that item is highlighted here in gray. We're going to be creating it down below that. It's going to be the parent folder is going to be models with an S, item with no S. And so we create this. Now by default, the JSON file is going to come up in a regular text editor. I'm going to close this out, and then I'll go back over here and right click on the new JSON file, and I'll say, I'll go with open with JSON editor. Once it sees it open as a JSON file, it tends to keep doing that. Now we see the little icon over here that shows it's being using a JSON editor as opposed to the blank page icon that used for regular text files. We also see a whole bunch of error flags in this hierarchy, saying there's a problem with resources. Well, the problem is this is not a legal JSON file. Now, we would not have gotten those messages without this plugin. This is why I wanted to plug in, because detecting errors in JSON is hard to do. We could use external validation things, but having it in an editor that is live right in here is, I think, a good thing. So a JSON file at minimal is going to have open and close curly braces. The curly braces are the same thing we use for marking the beginning and end of blocks in Java. So these are the things over the square braces to the right of the P. So shift those square braces and you'll get the curlies. So just to be clear on that, I know you've been using them for several classes now, but just in case there's anybody who's not 100% clear on what's going on, or if you can't see that very well in this video, although this is high def, you should be able to zoom in on it. That's what we're doing here. Now, this is a pretty useless JSON file, but it is legal, and so I'm going to want to tell it what cheese should look like. Let me go take a little look here what this is going to be. First of all, I'm going to need to tell it what the parent of the block is. So JSON files will have a tag or a label there that will indicate some, like a variable name. And then we'll say colon, and we'll put the value in. Now it's highlighted it, it's color coded this, syntax highlighted it as green. So that will be the case for the stuff on the left hand. And then over here I'm going to say as a string, and everything's going to be strings inside double quotes. I'll say item, singular again, generated. To say, please generate me a texture or a model. This is under models here. Okay, so we see models item. I want the model to be, I now hit a comma. Now I get an error. Well, I say no error before that. This is a legal JSON file, but I'm saying I'm going to have more. So I have to give it the more. This is the nice thing about this, because if I hover over it, mismatched input, expecting string, okay, that's a lot more useful than we couldn't load the JSON file, which is what we'd get from Minecraft if we didn't have this plugin. Next, I want to say here are the textures. Whoops, got a little carried away there on the keyboard. And so it'll be a string called textures. Textures is going to be an array. So the array type will have its own set of braces underneath it, and then we'll have all of the members as a list under it. This is an array of length 1, so it's only going to be a single thing in here, and it's going to be layer 0. Now we're not going to worry too much about what these mean right now. We'll just follow along here. But I want the mod ID, CIS 452 mod 1, and then I'll say colon, items, plural, and then cheese. This is where the this is where the texture is going to be found. Now, items plural. This is a singular item, so it's not going to be underneath here. It's going to be under one with plural. This is why it's so important to keep track of that. I'll Control S to save this file. The JSON file is now saved off. All right, where are the textures going to be placed? I'm going to need to create a package for the textures. The textures will be, let me just check my notes here. It's going to be appear to models. So I'll create another package here, and mod1 dot textures, plural textures, and then underneath that I'm going to say items plural. Okay, so now this is where the items comes from. The mod here is going to get us to it's going to prepend assets. Then it's going to take this string here, and it's going to put it after assets, and then it's going to put textures automatically there, and then the items part is added here. So we're providing part of the path. It's providing part of the path. That's why we need to kind of get things in the same order here. Could we have named this item and then name this item? Yeah, we could have, and I think that would have really confused a lot of what's going on here, because then it would have looked like item here, the one under models. Okay, so these are where the textures are going to be for the item. Where are we going to get that? Well, I provided you one. Let's bring up another little window. This is Sakai from our class site, and there is an assets folder here, and I'll click on it. You have a few of these things here. I'll just right click on cheese and say save link as. Now if I just click on the thing, it'll bring it up in a window here, and that's useless to me. I mean, relatively useless. I see it's a 16 by 16 PNG, which is what I want, but I need to get saved out. My actions here to do stuff within Sakai, you may or may not have that, because as I'm the instructor here, I can edit the site, and I don't know how much ability you have here. Not going to care. We don't need to do that. All you have to do is right click on it and then say save link as. At this point we're saving a PNG file, and it's like, well, where are we going to put this? All right, here's where we need to put this, and I will go into the 452 Forge, and then source, and then main, and then I can go into resources and assets. See, this is the path that we were looking at earlier here. And so textures, items. Okay, so if you have this assets, whatever the name of your mod is, textures, items, and just drop that in there. And that's all we need from Sakai right now. Now you don't see it over here. We'll need to do a refresh inside the Project Explorer. Now you see that we can open this up and see the cheese PNG here. Again, I double click on it. We can see it there as a path. All right, so that's the cheese JSON. The cheese PNG. We have the cheese JSON. I think that is enough to do what we need to do. So I'm going to save the reference off here. Again, I apologize for any misleading you with the underbar. I don't know what all the rules are, but let's keep it all lowercase and no special punctuation characters. Probably be good enough. Now let's run Minecraft. So I just click on it. Now since I've ran it before, it's going to default back to the client, since that's what I used last time. If I wanted to change it, I'd bring down that little arrow, but I don't. Now it came up off screen, so here it is over here loading into the world. Learning all the mods and stuff. And this is only going to take a second, so I don't think I'll need to pause the video necessarily, but you can always fast forward here. And we go here to single player, and this is my mode in creative. Missing registry entries. Oh, that's not good. Okay, alright. What happened here? No. You know, I know what happened here. I ran the game with the old item in there, and it's gone ahead and registered it into the world. I don't think I need to fix that necessarily. Um, and sitting here at 0%, so something's not happy with that. Unidentified mapping from registry CIS underbar mod1 cheese. Okay, oh, it stopped the server as a result of that. All right, I want to really delete that, so let me just kill that off, and let's start it again. See if I can get the option to delete that old registry entry. If I can't, I may have to just recreate the world. I hate to do that, but I am not going to be changing the mod ID all the time. But this is what happens when we create things and put them into the world. And okay, I'll go ahead and say yes there. Okay, if I continue, it gets removed. Okay, that's exactly what I want. So I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button a second ago. Okay, so here we go, loading the train. Okay, got bumped around because a sheep ran into me. And I have an exception down below here. So I'm going to Alt-Tab and come down here and see what this is. Oh, we'll always get one exception due to the authentication. That's not a problem. Okay, back to the game. And now I'll just say give, and hit player, and I want CIS 452. I just typed in CIS, hit tab, and it completed the name of the mod, and it completed the name of the item, because it only had one item there. I complete it, and I have no texture. Alright, so let's see what what may have gone wrong here. Item.cheese.name is there. So I will hit escape, just close down this, and let's see if we have any exceptions up here. I don't see any extra stuff up here. So the cheese.png textures item assets CIS 452 mod 1. Did I spell something wrong? See if I can look at the JSON file here briefly. Item generated. All of that looks pretty good. Okay, I see what was missing. It's hard to keep sync between my desktop machine and the one we did in class. I see, looking at this, that the proxies have not been updated. Server is empty, which it should be, but the client is empty as well. So there's no code to do the item registration. So I think that's probably a good candidate for what might be wrong with our registration. And looking briefly at what we need to do here, we need to just make sure, again, we're on client proxy, because the client's going to need to register things like the rendering information. And so what we'll need to do, first of all, note we have an item, we have the metadata. I'm going to call this data just to make it maybe a little bit more clear. This is the name of the item being created, the unlocalized name. And so I'm going to need to tell it a model resource location. So where are these models at? And so we'll want to create this type here. Now it doesn't know what a model resource location is. Let me find my mouse cursor. You can see it because it's highlighted in yellow. Mine is not. And please import model resource location, and that takes care of that problem. And so I'll need to now create a new object of type model resource location. And at this point, I'll want to say item.get registry name. Okay, so what the item was created and its unlocalized name was stored into the registry. Briefly looking at that, see right here, set registry name. Okay, that happens automatically for every item that we create. So by this point, that item registry name is there. Okay, set registry name, and that's enough for that. And then I want the name of the item. And okay, so it will build me a model resource location off of that. I have a little warning here saying I'm not using location yet. I will though. And I'm going to system.out.println. I do like to put some of these in here. You do not need to, but just to say setting resource location for model, and that will be item.getRegistry name. So I just want a little message to tell me, hey, I got here. This is an important part of debugging, because if I don't see this message, that meant this isn't registration, it's not happening. Had I done this earlier, I would have noticed well, there's no message. It's automatically being called, but it should be called as a result of the path of an event coming in saying register your items. There was an event handler inside this registry handler here, which will take care of all of this stuff. So we can follow it through if you want to, but if you're really curious about this, and I encourage you to be curious about this, put these messages in at key places. This is not stuff that happens over and over again. This is stuff that happens as one-time initialization during startup. If you put it in the constructor for here or the register for this, then you can get kind of a narrative when you run the program, and you'll see all the stuff happening, what order they happen in. So that's a good way of getting a good understanding of what's going on. Now I want to invoke the model loader. Model loader dot. There is a model loader class, and I want to set a custom model resource location. In other words, that model resource location we just created, I want to tell it about it. And so here's the model resource location. Adds a simple mapping from ITA plus metadata to the model variant. Now I mentioned that some models have different metadata that will change their appearance, such as the sheep with their coloring, the wool with their coloring. I think the metadata can also be used for orientation of items that like jack-o'-lanterns or trade skill containers, such as, well, chests or ovens, those types of things. When you place them in the world, there's definitely an orientation. Unlike a dirt block, which looks the same on every no matter what direction you face it, some things have a front and a back. So that's part of, I think, the metadata as well. So some of this stuff is going to be used to change the way the model appears. And now we don't use any model metadata, so there's nothing special coming in there. So I don't expect anything to change there. I'll just hit enter, and it will fill in the item, which is good, metadata, and it says model here. What I really want you to say is location. Oops. It did a really good job of filling in all of the stuff there. It needed an object of type model resource location, and Eclipse couldn't spot the one variable of that type because there is no model. All right, I think that's enough for us here. Let's see if we got this done. Now I could have stopped the video, fixed this, gone back and re-recorded it, and we would have no record of me making this mistake. Does that make me a bad person? No. I think it's good to kind of see some of these problems from time to time to see how we work with them. Oops, I already have Minecraft running. Let me kill it off real quick. It's starting a new one. Oops. No, I didn't have it. That was the one I just created. Oh, no, this is the new one. Okay, little concerned. I didn't want to have more than one Minecraft running. All right, so I think that was the problem here, is that the item render was not doing anything. And there's our cheese. We see it in the inventory down below in the little quick bar. We see a little part of it holding, pointing out away from the camera. So F5, as we learned last time, hit that a couple of times, and there I am holding cheese. Okay, it's a very flat thing there. If I want to create a 3D model, I can create one, and that will be something we'll look at later on. But for right now, this type of flat model is something we can create automatically from a texture. And I hit Q and throw it into the world, and we see my flat object floating there. It is definitely a it's 3D, but it's only 1 pixel high, and it's using my cheese texture. Okay, so that's having the item in the world. Now it says item cheese name. I'm going to hit E to bring up the inventory, and I see item.cheese.name here with no localization. Also, I don't know where cheese is located here. Doesn't seem to show up inside my inventory. Now, most blocks I can, like these building blocks or something, I can just actually, this is the whole list of all of the items there. I can just find something by name, or I can scroll through and look for it, and it's not showing me my stuff here. We see all of it with the localized name, and it's placed in here. So how do we fix that? I'm going to stop Minecraft, exit this, and let's take a little look at how we can set that up. Probably the first thing I want to do is to create a file under lang. So I created this package lang, and I'm just going to create a new file. So just file here. We can call it untitled text file, but this just lets me set a title to it, and that's going to be in_us .lang, I believe. Let me just sorry, I had to check my notes there. in_us .lang. Okay, so that file gets created. It shows up as a generic text file. That's fine. That's all I need it to do. In here, I'm going to create a bunch of strings, and I will give it its unlocalized name followed by an equal sign followed by a localized name. No spaces between these. Item.cheese.name. Where did I get that name? You can see it sometimes in the print messages here when things get printed out. I think we might find it here for the model loading. You definitely saw it when, well, I guess no, it just says model cheese. But you definitely saw it when we hovered the mouse over the cheese in game. So that's a hint that it's an unlocalized name. I'm going to give it cheese, uppercase, so that it shows up looking like what other items do. And I'll just save that. Okay, no space in between this, and all lowercase everything in here. Okay, the difference between that is the localization techniques that use. There are different formats to the file, so it's going to look for this particular one. This is the only one we care about, only one we're going to use. Yeah. All right, so that will take care of the name localization. That does not take care of where the item is placed. And so that we need to go back to the item base here and see where that is. We can, for each item, tell it what creative tab it's going to be in. I'm going to just set one here for creative tab, and now it's going to looking to see if it's, yeah, okay. I want to add in the tabs here, but I was looking to see if it needed to import anything. Apparently it doesn't. Okay, this is useless there. There's a creative tabs, all uppercase C and T, and then dot, and now we get a list of the different tabs that we can put the stuff in. Okay, brewing, building blocks, inventory, materials, food. I'm going to make this food. Okay, so I'll just tell it to put it under food. Okay. Now, is that going to work for all of these things? Maybe I might want to create a subclass of item base for my cheese. Or maybe I might want to come back over to my items and put it in here. Could I say cheese dot set second here dot, you're having a little problem with that set business, aren't you? Because it's not completing anything. That is an item. This is an item over here. but we should be able to set creative tab plural and oops. Set, yeah, okay. You know, you're not really identifier expected after this token. I know you're not helping me out here. I think I could probably set creative tab dot. It is not auto completing things for me here, but I think I could probably do that. Yeah, okay. So it's Control S. Why is it? Oh, because I'm in class. I'm not inside of a method. I'm not thinking here. This is all static stuff. So I'd have to actually create a constructor for mod items, and but it's a static class. So it's going to be kind of hard for me to place an individual item in there unless I subclass my items. I could take item base and create an item food and an item materials and all that would automatically put stuff in the correct spot, or I can just put it in here for right now just to illustrate how it works. So let's see if that works for us. Okay. Because this is unfortunately going to put every single item underneath food. And I could create a new tab and place it there, I think. Okay, so E to bring up my inventory. Cheese is now localized. That's good. Let's see. Here's where food is. I see my cheese down here. Now, I also can search for it up here. And as I type in cheese, it has found it as foodstuff. And so I can just click on it and drop it into my inventory there. I don't know if these stack. Apparently, yes, they do. Okay, so they will stack. All right, so that's where we kind of ended up last time, and then we started by looking at block implementation. So I'm going to end this video right here to because it's about a half an hour in, and start another one for the blocks. And let me just save and quit to that, and we'll start a new video for block stuff.